Hello everyone.
Ethan Barrett, a 45-year-old corn farmer, lived quietly on a stretch of Kansas soil that had belonged to his family for nearly a century. His farmhouse, though aging and creaky, held memories in every corner, echoes of laughter, love, and hardship. After his wife passed away 4 years earlier, it became just him and Lila, his 10-year-old daughter with eyes like her mother's and questions deeper than her age. The drought had been unforgiving this season. Each sunrise brought a new breakdown of irrigation pumps, of harvest projections, and increasingly of Ethan's spirit. Letters from the bank piled high, red ink warnings gnawed at his peace, and the nights grew longer with worry. One bitterly cold evening, just before the first snowfall, Ethan went to mend a broken fence post near the tree line. That's when he saw him, small, hunched, barely clothed, and trembling in the snow. The boy looked no older than 6, his skin pale, his feet bare. Without thinking, Ethan wrapped the child in his coat and carried him back to the house. Inside, Ethan lit the stove, and Lila fetched blankets. The boy didn't speak, didn't cry. He just stared, hollow-eyed and silent. They gave him soup and kindness, warmth and calm. Lila offered him her favorite hoodie and her oldest, softest stuffed animal. Ethan whispered as he tucked the boy in for the night, "We'll call the sheriff in the morning. You're safe now." But in Havenbrook, a town built on routine and suspicion, safety didn't come free, and kindness often came at a cost. The sun rose behind a curtain of frost, turning the farmhouse windows into white mirrors. Ethan moved slowly through the morning routine, his thoughts tangled with questions. The boy had slept through the night, tucked into blankets on the old sofa, his little hand still gripping Lila's stuffed bear. Ethan had promised they'd call the sheriff in the morning. He made good on that promise. Deputy Green arrived before breakfast had finished cooking. His cruiser crunched across the frozen gravel. Ethan knew Green. They'd gone to school together. But now the deputy stood taller than friendship allowed. "You waited till morning?" Green asked, glancing at the boy. Ethan's voice was calm but firm. It was below freezing. He needed warmth more than a backseat ride in a squad car. Green said nothing. He crouched near the boy, asking gentle questions. The boy wouldn't speak, just held the bear tighter. No missing persons report matched his description. No name, no record. "We'll take him in. Get him processed through social services," Green finally said. "He's just starting to settle," Ethan protested. "He needs rest." "It's protocol," Green replied. "This ain't up for discussion." The boy was taken. No thank you, no assurance, just a form and a cold nod. Later that day, the wind picked up, so did the rumors. It began with a whisper at the diner, then a glance at the post office, a disapproving head shake near the church steps. In Havenbrook, a town that prided itself on knowing everyone's story, Ethan's act of compassion became twisted into secrecy. "That Barrett man kept a kid overnight. He's not been right since his wife died. Hiding children now? What next?" 2 days passed. The bank arrived, unannounced. A man in a crisp suit delivered the blow: foreclosure. The land Ethan's grandfather once plowed was no longer his. Due to concerning activity, they said, he had 48 hours to leave. Shunned by stores, cold shoulders at the feed supply. His usual gas station now prepay only. Even Lila's school issued a request. She could attend, but needed to be monitored separately, for the comfort of other families. Then the news broke. The boy, now labeled Noah, had vanished from foster care, escaped, missing. Headlines turned suspicion into spectacle. Boy once sheltered by troubled farmer disappears again. They didn't say Ethan's name, but everyone in Havenbrook knew who they meant. That night, someone threw a rock through the front window. A note wrapped around it read, "We protect our kids. You should have thought twice." Ethan patched the glass with cardboard. He turned off the porch light and pulled Lila's cot into the living room beside his own. "Why are they mad you helped someone?" Lila whispered. Ethan's answer was silence. Not because he didn't want to speak, because he didn't know what to say. 3 days after the broadcast, Ethan was summoned to the sheriff's office. It wasn't an arrest, but it felt like one. The waiting room was colder than the weather outside. A deputy led him to a small interview room. Fluorescent lights, 2 chairs, 1 ticking clock. "We're just trying to understand your involvement," the sheriff said, voice even. "You sheltered a child. Then he disappeared. People have questions." "I called it in as soon as it was safe," Ethan replied. "He couldn't even speak when I found him. Yet he ran. From a state-certified foster home." Ethan stared at his hands. "Maybe he didn't feel safe there." "You're not suggesting he felt safer with you than a trained facility?" "I'm saying maybe what he needed wasn't in a file." They released Ethan without charges. But the doubt lingered, thick, unseen, suffocating. By the time he stepped back onto the street, reporters were circling like hawks. He kept his head down and walked. Back at the farmhouse, the power had been shut off. No notice, just darkness and cold. The fridge hummed no more, and the woodpile was nearly gone. Ethan made a fire in the barn instead. He moved Lila's bedding there. They curled up beneath saddle blankets, lit only by the flicker of flame and the breath of horses nearby. No words, just the shared silence of the unfairly judged. Lila tucked her fingers into his palm. "We didn't do anything wrong, right?" "No," Ethan whispered. "We did what we'd want someone to do for us." Later that night, Ethan stepped outside. The wind had calmed. Stars blinked overhead, distant and disinterested. He didn't see anyone at first. But there, by the gate, were footprints in the snow. Fresh, leading to a single envelope placed on the frostbitten ground. He opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a note, handwritten in smooth, deliberate script. "You saved my godson. We cannot reveal ourselves yet. But you are not alone. Help is coming." No signature, no return address. But something in the message made Ethan's breath catch. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to feel something other than fear, hope. Whoever wrote this knew Noah, knew what Ethan had done, and maybe, just maybe, believed him. He read the note again, then a third time. The words weren't just comfort. They were a promise. Ethan returned to the barn, where Lila had fallen asleep beside the fire. He tucked the letter into his coat, close to his heart. The world outside still mistrusted him. But somewhere, someone didn't. The next morning began like all the others that week. Silent, gray, and bitter. Ethan stepped out of the barn at dawn, snow crunching beneath his boots. He pulled his coat tighter, eyes scanning the empty gravel road. Just as he turned back toward the house, he heard it. Engines. Low, steady. Many of them. 6 black SUVs rolled over the hill and down his drive in formation. Slow and sure. They stopped near the porch, wheels crunching to a halt. The silence that followed was not empty. It was filled with purpose. Ethan stepped forward, unsure whether to feel relief or alarm. From the lead vehicle, a tall man in plain military gear emerged. He wore no insignia but moved like someone used to being obeyed. "Mr. Ethan Barrett?" he asked. "Yes," Ethan said cautiously. "I'm Commander Rhodes. We're here under federal directive. This property is now under protective jurisdiction." "Protective?" Ethan asked. "Why?" Another door opened. A small figure stepped out, bundled in a thick coat, eyes alert. "Noah." He ran forward, stopping inches away, as if needing confirmation. Ethan knelt. "Hey, buddy." The boy threw his arms around his neck. Before Ethan could speak again, another man exited the second SUV. Sharp suit, clipped movements, steely gaze. "Mr. Barrett, I'm Caleb Monroe, Federal Investigations Liaison. Noah is my nephew." Ethan blinked. "Your nephew?" "Yes. His mother was my sister. She passed last year. I've been his guardian since. During a covert operation, we were separated. We couldn't risk revealing identities. But your actions, taking him in, kept him alive." Ethan's knees gave slightly. "I didn't do anything special." Caleb shook his head. "You did everything. You saw a child in danger and gave him shelter, when others would have turned away." Rhodes stepped forward. "There was a threat. You became a liability not by fault but by proximity. That's why the backlash started. Your kindness exposed you to enemies who were watching. Ethan's breath caught. Are you saying this wasn't just the town being cruel? No. It was manipulated. Targeted misinformation. We've neutralized the source, but you were caught in the crossfire. A soldier handed Ethan an envelope. Inside were federal documents, official, notarized, and clear. Foreclosure voided. Property protected under national interest. Compensation authorized. I don't understand, Ethan whispered. Caleb smiled faintly. You gave us time. Time to find him. And time for him to survive. Now we repay what can be repaid. Across the field, neighbors began to emerge from their homes. Curious eyes peeking past curtains, stepping onto porches, staring. Ethan stood taller, not in pride, but in quiet vindication. He looked down at Noah. You okay? The boy finally spoke. With you, yes. News spread quickly. Footage of military SUVs at the Barrett farm aired on local stations. Then came the headlines. Farmer's kindness uncovers federal operation. Ethan's quiet act had become a symbol, not of scandal but of sacrifice. Lila returned to school, no longer whispered about but welcomed. Letters arrived, apologies from neighbors, thank you notes from strangers. The bank retracted its claim. Caleb visited often, and Noah, still shy but healing, spoke more each day. On the gate post of the freshly mended fence, a new sign appeared one morning. No one claimed it, but it read, Here stood a man who helped without knowing why, and changed everything because of it. Ethan never sought recognition. He just fed a child. But in that simple act, he reminded a town and a country that the smallest kindness can carry the weight of justice, even when the world isn't watching.
Bye.